I'd like to say something too about mortality. It's something that not a lot of us like to talk about, but it's reality. You're born, you live, you die.
Yep.
And it's what you do with in between that counts.
Hello and welcome back to the Human Reboot Project. It's 2026 and we're hitting a milestone with our 10th episode. If you're enjoying this podcast, please take a moment to give us a 5-star rating and maybe even a follow. I'm excited to introduce you to Alejandro, Christina, and Jeff, who are the focus of the documentary Second Winds by Encompass Films. Join us as we take a deep dive in what it means to not just live with CLL, but to thrive. I think you'll agree with me that all three embody what it takes and means to reboot when life throws the monkey wrench at you. So sit back and enjoy.
Beat up, kicked in the teeth, nowhere but up. Not gonna lie down and die. Gotta stand up, reboot, and move.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, I really appreciate y'all agreeing to be on the podcast, as well as agreeing for us to be able to find the time to get together and talk a little bit. So I'm going to try not to talk a lot because y'all have 3 incredible stories that to share. They're all highlighted in the documentary Second Winds. But let's start with just going round robin and having you introduce yourself. So Alejandro, you want to start us off because you're at the top left.
Sure. My name is Alejandro. I'm originally from Colombia. Been here in the U.S. for the past 24 years. And I'm a civil engineer. I work for an environmental remediation company. I'm a son, brother, and of course, a father of 3 lovely ones and some animals that hang out with us.
Yeah. And we get to see all of those lovely faces in the documentary. So welcome. And how long have you been living with CLL?
I got diagnosed back in 2020.
Okay.
During the so famous COVID years.
All right. Been there, done that. Well, the cancer thing, not the CLL thing. So yeah. Christina, you're up next.
Well, hi, I'm Christina. I'm from Boring, Oregon. People ask if it's a little boring, and it is, and that's fine with me. We go find our excitement elsewhere. So we're at the base of Mount Hood, where we can enjoy a lot of winter sports and definitely mountain biking and summer recreation as well. I've had CLL, SLL, which is chronic lymphocytic leukemia, small B-cell lymphoma, since 2013. I was misdiagnosed for about a year and finally got a handle on it, and it was a wild ride after that. Doing stable now, like my cohorts here, and I'm just really happy to be here.
Great. Well, we appreciate you being here. Jeff, you're up next, my man.
Hi, my name's Jeff. I was actually originally from Long Beach, California. I currently live in Utah. I've been here about 30 years now. I was diagnosed in 2006 with CLL and have been through many treatments and still doing great.
All right. Well, Jeff, it's great to see you as well. And just again, thank you to the 3 of you for being here. Maybe we should start with just talking a little bit about exactly what is CLL. I, to be honest, I was familiar with leukemia, but I was not familiar specifically with CLL until I actually watched the Second Winds video. So, who wants to take that one and give us the full medical breakdown of CLL?
Christina, go for it.
Christina, jump in.
I'm a facilitator for the CLL Society, so we talk about this frequently, especially with newly diagnosed individuals. So chronic lymphocytic leukemia and the combination of the SLL, which is, again, the small B-cell lymphoma, it's a very interesting and heterogeneous disease. It displays differently in every individual. every one of us is different in the way that we need treatment, in the way that the cancer can progress or not show its head at all. You can be diagnosed with it and be in what we call watch and wait or watch and worry, a lot of people joke about. And you can be in it for the rest of your life. And, typically what happens is once you're diagnosed, you're already displaying symptoms. So within a few years, you will most likely get into treatment, but you're monitored and usually checked by an oncologist every 3 to 6 months just to see if things are progressing. It's an indolent cancer, which means it's slow growing. So when you're diagnosed with it, typically what you might hear from the physician is, oh, you've got the good kind of cancer. So that's a real head burner. Yeah, right. And it takes some doing to wrap around it because, with our personalities, may I speak for you gentlemen as well? We're competitive. And the first thing that comes to everyone's mind is let's get this party started and get this treated. And it doesn't work that way. You're told you have an incurable cancer. You might have 2 to 10 years to live, which is what they were telling us back in the 10s, in the 2000s. And prior to that, it was basically a death sentence unless you went through a pretty heavy chemotherapy regimen, and that might have bought you some time. So your instinct is to, let's get treated. Let's get this show on the road. Why am I not being taken into treatment immediately? People that are diagnosed with stage 3 and 4 cancers are sent in for chemo right away. Not us. We're sent home to wrap our heads around this and just kind of wonder, how is it going to manifest and rear its ugly head? So it's a very, very strange thing to go through. And you can display, when I say display, your symptoms show in your blood. So your white counts might be extremely high. Your reds might be very low. Something generally feels off in your body. When you display on the lymphoma side, which many patients like us do, your lymph nodes swell and your body is trying to fight all of this. Your lymph nodes are involved because this cancer begins in the bone marrow. And, then what happens is lymph nodes swell typically around the clavicular area, the neck, wide. You can choke from it. It's so, it pops out so far sometimes. And that includes the vena cava, which, is in the abdomen. In that area, you get feelings of fullness, just all kinds of things happen. So everywhere you have a lymph node, basically, you can have swelling. And if they palpate those at the oncologist, then they're like, oh, okay, you're showing on the lymphoma side. We might treat this a little differently. And then what they do is they do something called a FISH test where they check your chromosomes. And depending on whether your DNA, your chromosomes have changed, or depending on what shows on this test. So for instance, I have 3 of chromosome 12. It's called trisomy 12. They would treat me in a different way. So does Jeff. Yeah. So, and depending on what your FISH test shows, it has to do with your prognosis. So some of us have a better prognosis for treatment than others. Some of us need to wait as long as possible to be treated before we're actually treated, because the longer you go, the less chance there is of you having 2 and 3 treatments down the road. They push it out as far as they can. It's a very strange cancer that requires a specialist.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And I'm glad that you mentioned the comment about the good cancer, because anybody that's listening to this that doesn't have cancer or hasn't had cancer, there is no good cancer. And I know where that comment comes from. It comes from a place of it's like the difference between being in a fender bender or a full-on 10-car pileup. There's still a chance you can get hurt, right? Or die. So,
yep.
it sort of undermines, I think, sometimes what people are going through, not only physically but mentally as well. So if you're out there listening, telling someone they have the good cancer is not making anybody feel better.
Especially at the beginning, when they tell you that at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. Would y'all like to talk a little bit about how you discovered that you had CLL?
Sure. I'll start.
Go for it.
I had my gallbladder removed, and I went to the hospital. That happened. I was recovering at home, and a week or two later, I was back at work, and I just got this random phone call, picked it up, and it was my general doctor, not the hospital, not a cancer doctor, anything like that. And he said, they looked at your blood work and you have leukemia. Just like that. I'm at work. And that was crazy. I was just speechless at that point. And I kind of said, okay. And I hung up the phone, and he said, before I hung up the phone, he says, yeah, we have a hematologist you're going to go to. I'll tell you all that, and we'll start from there. And hung up, and I immediately went to the break room, closed the door, and was silent for about a half hour, because it was a shot in the dark.
Wow.
For me. It was not done the best way possible. He didn't tell me I had the good cancer, though, which was probably a positive thing, but that's how I found out. And then that's what started the ball rolling. It was a shock. I didn't know which way to go and stuff. And I'm a prior congenital heart defect kid. So I'm thinking, oh my God, I got two things to worry about now. So yeah, it was not a fun day that day.
Yeah, I think that comes out in the documentary, Jeff, is that you at age 5, right? You had already were having
Correct.
Heart surgery. So yeah, I just you just gotta, I don't know. I mean, was that the chronic heart disease? Is that something that's followed you your entire life, or did the surgeries when you were younger help it?
Yeah, well, it helped. It was a congenital defect. It's called tetralogy of Fallot, and it's 4 parts that are wrong with the heart. And it was corrected then, but I ended up having open heart surgery again at 39 to put a heart valve in.
Wow.
Because what was in there wasn't doing so well. And they actually found another hole in my heart, which fixed some TIAs I was having because I was blowing blood clots into my head. Yeah, I've had a little bit of a medical thing going.
Yeah.
But interestingly, I think having that open heart surgery as a child kind of set me up to be on a good road for getting CLL, because I had spent my life having to be positive, having to be on top of things, having to go. And I think it kind of took the hurt off of it a little bit and set me up for a good path.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. We're gonna come back to that positive intent and how we move forward in a little bit. So I appreciate you sharing that, Jeff. Alejandro, what about your diagnosis? How did it come about?
My diagnosis came out of a routine physical checkup. I was concerned because I had a lump on my forearm that appeared out of nowhere. No sickness, no cold, no allergies, nothing. And that was around before summer of 2020. And I scheduled my physical, got my physical, and he got the results. And the first thing that he said was, I'm going to send you to an oncologist. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Like, tell me more. Like, tell me more right now, not make me wait. But yeah, so it started with that. And then from that point, got my appointment with my oncologist. Walked in, draw some blood. And after the first vampire session, he said, I think I know, but I just want to confirm a little bit more. So my what I'm going to tell you right now, let's just wait, but just keep that in mind. And that's when the first bomb came in of, you have leukemia. It's CLL. Wow. You start learning about a whole bunch of acronyms really, really, really quick. And from that point, after that first appointment with him, we scheduled a CT scan. A CT scan led to a PET scan. and the PET scan eventually led to a bone marrow biopsy. What's next, doc? And pretty much he said the magic words that we love and hate at the same time. Let's just watch it and watch and wait.
Okay.
Let's just watch it.
All right. I want to get into that watch and wait in just a second, but I'd like to hear from Christina as well in terms of her diagnosis as well, and how she got the not so great news.
Mine was kind of a rough ride. It took a long time for a diagnosis. I was insured with a healthcare system that is large through the Northwest and can get kind of a bum rap about, some of the ways they treat patients. But the primary care physician that I had, I went in for a checkup because I had a small lump under my left collarbone, but I wasn't feeling bad. And, I was always super active and just, borderline rowdy and, rode dirt bikes and just was always super active. And so I wasn't really feeling any fatigue, but some things had led up to it. So Jeff said he had his gallbladder taken out. Well, I had this terrible inflammation. I had an appendix rupture. And that was years before my actual diagnosis. And then they kept talking about, you have a lot of inflammation. What's the problem? I'm like, I don't know. It's just probably work stress. I worked as a realtor forever. And, it's a high stress job. And I was always on the run and really dismissed it. I remember thinking all the time, I'm so healthy. I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed in my life that I haven't gone through these medical things that people go through. Well, all of a sudden it was just like somebody was kind of dealing a card at me a little bit at a time. First goes the appendix rupture, and that was kind of a freak incident. And then there goes the gallbladder. That was inflamed and needed to come out. It's like, and I was joking, do I have any organs left? And, I just didn't really pay attention to what was going on. So I went into the primary care and I said, I've got this lump right here. And he said, you're probably fighting an infection. Let's maybe try to watch you for a while. So we did that, came back 6 weeks later. It was still there. Oh, well, let's try some antibiotics. So we tried that. That didn't work. And I went to that primary care physician, I believe it was 6 times before he would even talk to me about, maybe we should do a biopsy, because my blood work kept coming back normal. It wasn't showing on the CLL side. I was displaying on the SLL side. And sometimes your blood work is normal. And then, weeks after that, I was really frustrated with him. I actually cried in his office. And to be honest with you, he was a little misogynistic. He kind of treated me like I was a hysterical female and kind of alluded to that. And, my intelligence was highly insulted. I was really, really torqued at this guy. And so one day I woke up and my eyes were swollen shut. And I'm talking, I couldn't see anything. Both eyes just went from nothing the day before to looking like I had a massive infection in both eyes when I woke up. And they took me in at an ophthalmologist is what they decided I needed to go to. She takes one look at me and she said, I need to call my friend who's an ENT over at the hospital. And this is all in the same healthcare system. She calls her friend, the ENT, and they figure out that they're all roommates. The ophthalmologist, the surgeon that took out my gallbladder, and the ENT happen to all live together. So they start talking about what they've seen from me over the past year, and they're kind of putting 2 and 2 together. So the ENT said, send her over on my lunch hour to the hospital. I went over. She said, we're going to take a lymph node out of your neck right now. Do you have an issue with that? Nope. Let's get it done. I need to know. And within 3 days, she called me, and our whole family was off getting ready to go Christmas shopping. And she called me, and I don't talk about this too often. I mean, there's no point in it, but I look back as, it's kind of humorous to all of us because of our dark humor. And, I took the news sitting on the toilet seat. She said, "Do you have a minute?" And I'm like, "I got to escape all these kids, And so I ran into the bathroom and put the lid down, sat on it, and that's where I got the news. So that was my journey.
Wow.
Long-winded.
No, don't apologize.
It was long and it was frustrating, and I was hopping mad by the time I got it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, good for you for continuing to advocate for yourself. I think that we often think that, oh, my doctor said this or that, therefore it must be correct. But we hopefully know our bodies better than anyone else. And we know when something's wrong. It sounds like with Alejandro, it's just noticing that lump underneath his arm. And then the story you just described, Christina, both about, realizing something is not right. And continuing to push for answers. So good for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think all three of y'all got the watch and wait message from your doctors, which to me is just like you're sitting there, somebody hands you a bomb with a lit fuse and says, "Here, hold this." And then when it goes off, then we'll treat you for the injuries that cause it. Y'all want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, that watch and wait phase is kind of weird. I was watch and wait after my initial diagnosis for about 5.5 years.
Oof.
And it was like, well, okay, when's the other shoe going to fall? What's going to happen? Just going in and getting blood work, and it's all good. It's all good. You make a lot of friends in the treatment rooms and stuff. And you kind of, whoa, I'm going to be in there one of these days getting treatment. Oh my gosh. I don't want to. And then it starts creeping up on you. My blood work started going up, and I ended up getting, before I was treated, I ended up getting a white count of over 400, which is pretty high up there, but I still felt okay, which was the weird part. So my doctors were going, well, yeah, maybe a little bit, maybe a little longer, maybe in 6 months we'll have to treat you. Okay, I get to wait some more.
Yeah.
At that
Jeff,
point, you're kind of wanting. Sorry,
Jeff, what's that normal range? Do you know the normal range for white blood cell count? So people have a reference.
9.8.
Yeah, to 11. Maybe.
9.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Okay.
And I was up at like
Wow.
400.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just weird waiting. And eventually, I got to the point where I was like, let's get the show on the road here. I want to get going. And by that time, I was starting to feel kind of crappy because my spleen was real big. I had the big chipmunk cheeks going with and all sorts of lymph nodes. And, at one point, it's time.
Yeah.
And you go for it.
Okay.
And that's what my watch and wait phase was.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. And Alejandro, if I remember correctly from the film, because you love to ride bikes, you had a bike crash, which led to sort of hey, this is the watch and wait's over.
Yeah. During my watch and wait was not as long as Jeff's. Mine was from 2020 to 2022, 2 years and some change. And within that period, the lymph node on my forearm disappeared, but I started feeling lymph nodes on my armpits. And little by little, they started to grow, and little by little, they started to bother me, especially wearing tight shirts or jackets or sweaters or stuff like that. And they would bother me. And within that 2 year period, I had a bike accident. My primary doctor sent me to get a CT scan, and she's pretty much said, "I know your doctor have seen it, but I would like him to see it again." And he got the report. He saw them. He called me, scheduled another appointment, and he looked at me and said, "Okay, I think it's time. More blood work." And it was time for what? What stage are we in?
Yeah.
What's the next step? What kind of treatment are we starting? I was, you come to a point, that the watch and wait you want to enjoy the watching weight, but it's also a worry in there. At the same time, you also have the hope that is nothing's going to happen too, that if it's something's going to happen, let's get it started and get it over with. And that day, Dr. S pretty much told me, got two options for you. One that is a 1-year treatment and another one that is a lifetime treatment. And out of my mouth just said, let's just do a 1-year treatment. Are you sure? Go home and think about it. Like, no, just 1-year treatment. Let's do it. And, for me at that moment, it's a 1-year treatment, right? But you're thinking that you're going to walk out and the prescription is going to be sent. You're going to go to the pharmacy, pick it up, and, and start. And I got home, and day 1, day 2, day 3, and no phone call from Dr. S. I finally call and go, what's up? What's the plan? He goes, well, I was waiting for your call. I'm like, dude, I told you, let's do the 1 year. Let's do the 1 year. Let's do the 1 year and get it started. And yeah, so the rest was just phone calls with the insurance company and figuring it out, how to do it and how not to do it, and so on and so forth. But yeah.
Right. And Christina, how long was your watching weight? It got pretty, if I'm remembering correctly from the film, it got pretty bad where like you were having to use a cane and stuff because your balance was all, I'm not sure all the details, but you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was diagnosed in 13, and then probably about most of the way through 2016, I started losing some weight. And I was small to begin with. I was probably averaged around 115 pounds, and my weight just went rapidly. And they were checking me every 3 months at that point, and within a 3-month time period, I dropped to 87 pounds. And I was seeing a specialist who said to me, if there's any drastic change, like you're so fatigued you can't get up, or your night sweats are really bad, that just came on within weeks of going into treatment. It was like all or nothing. I was fine, and then all of a sudden I started having these drenching night sweats. And you make excuses because you think, well, I've gone all this time, it's probably just warm in the house, or hormones. I believe I was menopausal at the time too, and so it was a little confusing. And instead of calling my doctor in a big panic, which I tend not to do anyway, I just kind of dealt with things. So it's like, okay, I need to buy bamboo pajamas because I'm sweaty. And, I just kept thinking there were other solutions. And then all of a sudden, my family was coming to me saying, you look like a skeleton. You're so skinny. And I'm like, well, I'm eating, I'm eating extra calories, but I was still working out. And just all of a sudden within a week, I just dropped. I was being pushed around in a wheelchair. And so I said, well, I'm not going to call the doctor because my appointment is like in 8 days. So my partner, he wheels me into the office with my specialist. My specialist about lost it. He was upset with me. He's like, what is going on? Why are you so far down? Well, I didn't know what he meant by so far down, like beat down, weight loss. What is it that's upsetting you here? Because my blood work was still pretty good. I was still getting that sent in. And that's when I learned that it's not necessarily your blood counts. It's just how your health is as a whole is your signal to be treated. And so he said, I have a clinical trial for you. Do you want to try it? I really believe in it. And I had the utmost faith in this guy. He's amazing. He has since moved on to the City of Hope in California, but I guess we can speak about names and things. We didn't do it during the movie, but he's not involved with AbbVie, but Dr. Alexei Danilov is just an amazing human. And he kept my spirits positive. I felt complete trust in him. The way he laid out the program for me, I said, when do we start? And he said, now. We have to start you now. And so I was in within a few days to start the trial.
Okay. So all three of y'all had some other type of treatment before you came to the Abby V treatment. Is that correct?
Yes.
What did
My one treatment was that one, was that combination of the Gazyva and Venetoclax.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually have a sheet of paper to remember all my treatments. My first one after the watch and wait was my doctor recommended I do what back in the day was called FCR, which is fludarabine, rituximab, and cyclophosphamide. That's two chemo drugs with a monoclonal antibody. And me being the proactive person I became, I wanted a second opinion on that treatment. So I actually went to the wonderful Dr. Kipps at UC San Diego, who most people will know his name. Went to see him, and he recommended that I only do FR because the cyclophosphamide would cause more genetic damage, essentially, and wanted to save my chromosomes for later, basically. So then I went one step further, and I actually emailed a world-renowned CLL expert in England, and he came back with the same thing. He said, do FR. So I went back to my hematologist and said, this is what we're going to do. And I said, these are the doctors that recommended it. And she was like, fine, let's go. So that was my first treatment. It worked good and then I went off. Again, I have to use cheat sheet here. I had a 1.5 years of kind of a remission. And then I went into my first clinical trial, and it was going to be idilacilib or ofatumumab, which is a monoclonal antibody, and the study drug was the idilacilib, and I was on the comparison drug, which is a monoclonal antibody, and I lasted about 3 months on that, and they had to stop treatment because of infusion reactions, but it worked. And that gave me 16 months of remission. I got 5.5 years on that drug without anything. And then I went with my doctor's permission on a treatment vacation because I was UMRD, which is undetectable minimal disease. So we decided to take a break, which was great. I got 3 years break and went in for a checkup, and I knew the shoe was going to hit the floor because I had started to feel some lymph nodes growing. So I told my doctor, and we went in, and she goes, yeah, let's play it. And I go, well, I'm going to go for another second opinion to see what's actually going on here because I'm been so heavily treated throughout the years. So I went to the University of Utah with another CLL expert they have up there. And I'm glad I did. I ended up having a genetic meltdown, essentially. I went from trisomy 12, 13q to 17p, TP53, trisomy 12, which is like the worst combination you can have, genetic markers. So that started my third clinical trial, which I got on about a year ago. And it's a study drug that's a BTK degrader, which is not like ibrutinib, which is an inhibitor. And so far, so good. Great blood work. I also was presenting as SLL instead of CLL. I had a mass in my stomach about the size of a football at one point, and that's pretty much gone. It's down to almost normal, so I'm getting a complete response, he told me last week. So yeah, lots of treatments.
Yeah. That's great to hear, Jeff. And Jeff, it almost sounds like during certain points of your treatment, you almost sort of went back into the wait and watch mode again, which the first time's probably got to be nerve wracking. I don't think it gets any better The second or third time. Yeah.
The second and third time or whatever, it's kind of like, oh shit, here we go again. It's basically that it.
Yeah.
It's you get kind of used to it, but then you kind of worry, and it's just a weirdness, up and down. Yeah, Alejandro's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't think the watch and wait ever goes away. Yeah, you can finish your treatment. They can tell you you're on remission, but they want to see you every 3 months, every 6 months. And that becomes phase 2 of watch and wait, or phase 3 of watch and wait.
Right.
And yeah, at least me personally, when I have to go do my follow-ups, the not so excitement climbs up. I walk out with positive news, so far so good, and you forget about it until the next appointment, and it's a roller coaster. So I don't think it goes fully away.
No,
but
crazy.
Something my specialist kept saying when I was in treatment around 2017, 2018. So when I relapsed, they put me on an AbbVie medication, which is Venetoclax. And you probably hear that one a lot with this disease. It's kind of a miracle drug. And they combined it with something that they use a lot in lymphoma, and that's rituximab. And so my doctor was super excited because he said, this Venetoclax just got FDA approved. You got to get on it. And I'm getting it for you. I've already talked to AbbVie. And I'm like, what do you mean you've talked to AbbVie? And he said, because it just got FDA approved last week. You'll be the first woman in Oregon to get it.
Nice.
And so I was kind of excited about that, but not really. I knew it had been through trials, but I trusted him. He had his own lab. He was, he's a brilliant man. And so, they checked me into the hospital because they weren't really sure. I was right on the precipice of all this stuff coming out. And he just kept saying, you've never had this at a better time. No one, has had this at a better time. We have stuff, and so I trusted him. And so that's where the AbbVie situation came in. I've had 3 of their medications, and the Rituxan infusions actually changed toward the end of my treatment. I had a lot of Rituxan infusions. And then for the last 2, they said, we have great news. There's something new called Rituxan Hycella shots. So you can actually get an injection instead of a 5-hour infusion. You don't have to come here and sit in a chair. They were so excited about my time being saved so I can just go off and do what I want to do. And I said, what do you mean it's an injection? Where do you put it? And they said, you just take up a little subcutaneous skin and fat, and we just inject it in there, but the injection takes 7 minutes.
Wow.
And I don't have a problem with needles. I never have. I worked at a hospital part-time, so I had been around the labs, and I'd even been a guinea pig for the new butterfly needles. It doesn't bother me, but something about I'm going to get an injection in my stomach.
Oh, that's where it goes?
Yes.
For 7 minutes?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
And it was the nurse's first time. So here's all my staff that I trusted. She comes wheeling in with a pillow and a tray, and she's like, okay, I warmed up my hands. I'm like, what do you mean you warmed up your hands? Well, they have to sit there steady. It's viscous, so it's thick. It's like a gel. And so they have to put it in. And so she has to hold that needle steady in my stomach. And that's the first time I ever really melted down after months and months and months of treatments. I actually started to bawl like a baby in the doctor's office when she was coming at me with the tray. So that was all red alert. Like the psychologist came running in, everybody's like, she's melting down. And are you scared of the needle? No, this whole thing freaks me out, and, then I sucked it up and did it and felt like a fool afterwards because it was really easy. They just did this. I think it ended up being like 6 minutes of us all chattering while they did it. And then they were like, okay, you can go. It's like, I'm not going to stay here, with a buzzed head, wondering if I can even walk out or drive, and they're like, here's your shot, get out of here. So the technology is changing so much. And we talked about it a little bit in our interviews after the movie, but now they're coming up with bispecifics and trispecifics. And so Jeff talked about the BTK inhibitors. So that's a type of protein that's on the cancer cell. I call it like a peanut M&M, where these degraders come in and they rupture the protein coating, and then they kill the cancer cell. And so these bispecifics and trispecifics, if they don't get the right protein or the right cell at the time that you're taking the medication, a bispecific will go after it a second time. A trispecific will go after a third time, or 3 protein coatings. And so the technology is unbelievable.
Christina, I got to ask, I'm still itching on the needle for 7 minutes. How, and the replacement of the infusion, and the infusion, at least for me, was 5 to 6 hours once a week for the first 6 months.
Yes.
And so walk me through again. Needle, 7 minutes in your stomach. How often?
Let's see, my last 2 infusions that I ever had. So it was once a month.
Once a month. Okay.
2 months. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to compare the 10 minutes that I enjoyed during my bone marrow biopsy. And all right, where am I going to chicken out if I have to chicken out?
And that's the thing, Jay. I've never had a bone marrow biopsy. So yeah, see, Jeff has had 2. Alejo's had 1. I've had no, my doctors didn't feel they were necessary. And so
I got a funny bone marrow biopsy story, though.
Let's hear it.
My PA that did them, his name is Rick. He's a great guy. Was doing my first one, and I was a little bit apprehensive. I had heard lots of horror stories about them, and he comes out with a thing that looks like, you ever seen the little T-handle tire fix thing that you put the plug in and pull it out? Mm-hmm. Well, the tool they used to do it looks exactly like that.
Core sample.
And it's sharp at one end and it's big. And
just like the one that we used to fix tires, Jay.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah, I was like, So I'm looking at this fucking tool going, oh my God. And he goes, okay, we're going to numb you up. We're going to do a little incision here, and we're going to, go down to where the bone is and do this. And, I just want you to relax, and I'll tell you when we're going to start. And he started telling me really nasty jokes when he put the needle in, and I was laughing. And he'd done that every time he did it. He'd tell me some dirty joke, and I'd start laughing instead of crying, basically. But then it was kind of interesting. I started to go, what does the core look like, and this and that, and so it wasn't all that bad. Yeah. But yeah, he told me dirty jokes every time he did a sample.
The medical staff is what got me through. They all have dark humor just like I do. And so the more I clowned around with them, the worse they got.
Yeah. I also brought in marshmallow treats and bribed them a lot.
I brought in all kinds of stuff, definitely.
Yes.
My biggest fear finishing treatment, the Venetoclax part of it, was finishing, getting some blood work done, and him saying, we're good, but we want to do another bone marrow biopsy. Anyway, so I get there, he tells me to put my pants down, and the next, it's Dr. S, the nurse, Angie behind me, and I'm just facing down, and suddenly I just feel like a needle. I'm like, okay, no problem. And it was the needle, the numbing, and suddenly I feel the cut. I'm like, okay, not bad. And suddenly here comes the tire plug, and it starts going in, and I can feel it going in, but right when he gets to the bone, that's when you feel it.
That's when it hurts.
That's when it hurts. And it's the way that I described it. I can remember clearly how I felt. Is like you let go of everything. Like you have no control. You have no control. You just let go and like get it done. Get it done. He gets in and he takes the samples out. He goes to the table. He looks at it and he goes, hey man, with another slap on the butt, I need to go inside it.
Yep. Have that happen.
And I was pissed off and nervous and recovering from the nervousness. And I go, motherfucker, get it done quickly. and Angie screaming at me like, Alejandro, language. I'm like, no. There's no room for language. Go in quickly.
May I say to those who may be watching this later who have to have one of those done, they're not that horrid. We're just telling war stories here a little bit.
We exaggerate, yeah.
There is the problem. You are laying with your butt up in the air.
Yeah.
Buck naked. That's part of the deal.
Let's talk a little bit about the film Second Wind, if you don't mind, because I first of all, I'd like to know how it sort of came about, because it wasn't like y'all were all in some CLL chat room online and said, hey, we're all awesome people who love being outside and we're hopeful and resilient. Somebody should make a documentary about us. So how did it really come about?
Who wants to go?
Alejandro, go ahead.
Yeah.
I came across a Facebook post from a CLL group that I joined at some point, and the post was just a post. Hey, we're looking for CLL patients with and without treatment, and it's for a documentary. And the post did not look legit at all. And I think I showed it to Jeff, and I think I showed it to Christina. And if I ever share it with you, Jay, you might not even send an email. It looked it looked different. And so I sent the email, and weeks went by, got a reply, and we want to do a quick interview with you and record it, no problem. And it lasted maybe 45 minutes, and then another interview, and then another interview, and then silence. And then out of the blue, I get an email saying, congratulations, you have been selected for the documentary. Like, oh shit, okay, and who else? We cannot tell you. Okay. All
right.
You just sit tight and wait for the next steps.
Yeah. Jeff, Christina, same kind of story?
Oh. I was messaged by an online friend of mine that I've known for probably 15, 16 years in the online CLL community. And she was saying, hey, Jeff, there's this documentary being filmed. Here's the contact. Give them a call if you want to maybe do this. So I gave him a call and did the same thing. Eventually I got a couple of interviews after that, and yeah, you want to do it? I go, yep, sure. And that was, again, silence for a while, but
yeah.
They made you guys wait. They didn't make me wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
So mine came through the CLL Society. I think it was one of the supervising people that oversee all the facilitators. And I think they were having problems finding a really active female with CLL. And they wanted me to be treated, not untreated, or the person to be untreated. And so the whole gang over at the CLL Society, they were sending me emails, you need to do this, you need to do this. And so a lot of them had known that, like I was an old pro skier and stuff like that, and did a lot of racing. And so they were like, you'd be perfect for this. And so I did an interview, and they said, we have to pull 2 more people in and do another interview. Can we do that next week? Sure. So they told me at the end of the interview that I was in.
Okay.
They just said no question. So they must have been desperate for a woman.
Right. So I guess you had to be a CLL patient, undergoing treatment. You had to look at least halfway decent on film, and you have to be active. And that's what really resonated with me with this film, as I was like, yes, this is my tribe right here, not the CLL tribe, just my outdoor tribe. That is has cancer, but they're not letting it, or they're trying to figure out how to navigate the things that they love, their family, being outdoors, being active. So did y'all have any idea that that was sort of the theme of the film, or did they just start shooting and sort of direct you towards talking about being outdoors and active?
That was the theme. Going into it, that was the way it was
Okay.
going to be.
Yeah.
I think they selected us by activity too. They knew I was a mountain biker, but they said we already have a biker.
Okay.
Yeah. So they said pick two other ones.
Yeah. So biker, a skier, and a land surfer, or a surfer turned land surfer. So,
And they filmed me paddleboarding too.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Mild paddleboarding. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that they do in the film is they obviously they put some focus on your families and your relationship with your families, and go into it a little bit. But for me, when I had my cancer diagnosis, one of the hardest things for me was telling my loved ones, especially my wife, that I had cancer. Did y'all experience? Is that the same for y'all?
Ooh, that was a tough one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was in the bathroom, so
Right.
when it came out, my partner of 20 years, he knew instantly something was up. And I think I definitely I pulled him into the bathroom is what I did, and left all the kids out, in a different room. And so, we just kind of said, we'll deal with this later. Let's go have a good Christmas shopping day with the kids, and kind of just went into denial. But yeah, the family support has been insurmountable.
Yeah. And when did you get around to telling your kids? I mean, that's kind of a hard one to do, to keep the straight face when something like that's got to be weighing on you.
I think they knew something was up. They knew that I had shed a few tears, like my nose was red like Rudolph or something, and I think I just dismissed it a little bit. I said, I have a type of cancer, but it's very slow growing. I don't need treatment right now. I don't want you guys to worry. My kids were all older, they're right now they're 34, 30 and 28. Yeah. So, it was a kind of a slow thing, but my oldest actually was getting her degree in public health. And so she has a master's in it now, and you can't pull the wool over her eyes at all. She runs patient quality for a hospital system here in Oregon now. And
Okay.
she knows it all.
Yeah.
So she was my stoic one, she always sat for all the appointments, just, Miss Clinical, and that was the first time I really saw her upset, was during the filming of the movie.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's always good to have somebody in your corner like that can be the rational, or what you call them, the clinical person, to sort of really take in that information and help you digest it. Now, Alejandro, your kids are a lot younger, still young.
They're still young. They were younger. I still remember it clearly. So the process of getting diagnosed, Angie was right next to me the entire time, even the day that he said, okay, this is what you have. Enjoy your camping trip. And we left the doctor's appointment and came home and finally loaded up for the weekend. And we just started driving. We were heading north to June Lake. And on that road trip, of course, Angie and I were just talking in silence and talking in silence and wondering, do you watch and wait and you watch and worry and blah, 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 blah. And the kids were in the back. They're just sitting at that moment. This is 5 years ago. So Sophie was 10, 8, and a baby, Tati. And they were hearing it, but they're just face down, looking at their iPad, looking out the window, restroom break, snacks, etc. And then a few weeks went by. maybe a couple of months went by, and we needed to renew our passports. So we were waiting outside the postal office, and I just told Angie, let's just tell him. And we told him, Daddy's sick, Daddy has this. And we didn't go into too much detail, of course, because of the age. But we just told him, oh, okay, cool. He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. No problem. And then 2 years after that, that's when, okay, Daddy's going to start treatment. He's going to be fine. He's going to be going to doctor's appointment. That's what we called it. Doctor's appointment on Thursdays. And there's going to be bad days for him and good days for everything. But everything's going to be fine. So, yeah, it was, I asked him a few weeks back after watching the documentary if they remember that day. And of course, they don't remember the first day. They do remember treatment time, and when I was going to treatment. And it was, okay, Daddy's going to the doctor, period. And he's going to come back, and Tati will be home from school when I came back from the infusion, and the reward was, Tati, here's the Band-Aid, please take it off from me. And so she was always looking for that Band-Aid to remove. Sure. And fortunately, we're able to make it as fun as possible for them. Coincidentally, Sophie had a project in one of her classes, and she ended up by things for a reason, she ended up doing some research on leukemia. I was going through treatment, so she kind of understood a little bit more because of that. But that's Sophie, the oldest one. Mateo was just, you feeling good? You're not writing today? You're not working out? No? All right, take a rest. If you need anything from me, let me know. And Tati was just, Daddy's at the doctor.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Jeff, how did you go about telling your family?
Told my wife the first day, excuse me, basically said, I got to talk to you when I get home. Sat down, I told her. The kids at the time were 13 and 16. And I recall, not so much when I told them, but I think I was straight up with them. I thought they were old enough to know the basics of what was going on. I did have a really crazy moment, though. It's when we lived in California, and we went on a trip up to the mountains, and we were hiking, and this is in the movie where I sat down on some little swing in the mountains on the trail and just started really worrying, like, wow, am I going to see my kids grow up? And that was a really hard moment for me. But the most difficult decision I had was telling my mother. She was all about 90 years old, I think, close to that at that point. And, she'd gone through so much with me as a child, with all the heart stuff and all this. I just couldn't bring myself to tell her that I had leukemia now. And I waited, and my wife was finally, Lori finally goes, you got to tell her. So I got up the nerve, and I called her up, and I go, Mom, I gotta sit down. I got some news I got to tell you. I just told her I had leukemia, and she went, oh, you'll do fine. It was okay, Mom. Same mom I've always had. Yeah. Bless her soul. I was all so worried about it, and she was just like, yeah, okay, you'll do great.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all.
But they do.
I'm sorry, what?
That's what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what moms do.
Yeah.
Probably why we're all so resilient. Mine's, yeah.
The purpose behind this podcast is to share people's journeys of resilience and how they, when they're handed a shit sandwich, how they go about, moving past that and sending the shit sandwich back to the kitchen and ordering something a little bit better. I'd love to hear, because when I watched the video or watched the documentary, I was just like, these people get it. They're not, yes, they've got a shitty hand that's been dealt to them, but they are not letting it slow them down. So talk to me about that. How did you keep moving forward?
I mean, I'm very analytical. I'm data driven. My mom is very medically inclined. So, I grew up with all the terminology, and it was just a matter of taking the bull by the horns. I'm like, life is a gift. I've been having a really good ride and a good time so far. And I guess if that's what is going to hit me later in life, I'm going to hit it back. So my first inclination was to deep dive on the data and just gather all the information I could gather. You know, I joined a couple of websites. One was kind of scary. It was all the patients talking about the horrible things, and and then some of it was good. You know, it was supportive, and so I wasn't really the type to reach out for support groups, but I got actually roped into doing the facilitation work for the CLL Society. My specialist that I've been talking about kind of cornered me into that one. So he thought that was pretty funny. And, you know, I just started the medical staff, everybody was dealing with everything with humor. And like I said, I have dark humor, and I thought I'm going to get on this bandwagon. I'm going to gather up all my ammo, and I'm not the type that's just going to lay down and, you know, take it between the eyes. I'm going to do what I can do anytime I can get up and do it. And so, you know, the family, they saw me down maybe for a day or 2 days, maybe after treatment, but I was always struggling to be up on my feet. I hate taking naps, and I hate laying down during the day. I'd rather just not, you know, be alive. I need to move. And so, you know, on maybe the day after the infusions and stuff, I'd be vacuuming the house, and, you know, and I thought I knew better. So I told my doctor one day, I don't want the dexamethasone. That stuff keeps me awake for 3 days in a row. I feel like I'm on crack, and I need to sleep. And he's like, no, I just really think you should have it. It just helps give you energy. And so one time we tried an infusion without dexamethasone, a steroid. And, you know, I think I slept for 3 days straight, exhausted. So I get why they give you steroids during treatment now. So I was happy to get that. And, you know, I struggled a lot with hydration issues and lung breathing and coughing while I was biking and stuff like that. I had to figure out a new normal. And, you know, it sounds sometimes like maybe we had kind of an easy time with some of our treatments. But, you know, for instance, when I went on the clinical trial, my doctor, he wanted positivity in all corners of this, in all aspects of this treatment. So I would say to him, well, I really want to go to Seattle and see the Supercross that, you know, we see every year. So should I go? And he'd be like, do you feel up to it? And I thought, yeah, I guess I could do it. Well, looking back, it was probably a really stupid thing that I went. I ended up having electrolyte failure and going into cardiac arrest at Harborview in Seattle. So,
wow.
Yeah. And that went into a whole different aspect of things. You know, I don't know if you know what an NDE is, but it's like a near-death experience. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I experienced some things that kind of set my brain straight. When I finally came out of it, I decided I need to be more purposeful in my actions. I need to definitely give back more to others. So, you know, that rounded me into who I am today. But I never once stopped trying to keep up with everybody. You know, I said in the post-movie interview, I'm the one that was all my mountain bike group is like way less than half my age, you know, the girls that I bike with and the guys that I bike with, you know, and there was me just dehydrated and trying to pedal uphill. And I'm like, hey guys, wait for me, you know, and you don't want to give up. I mean, it's, you know, you live or you don't. And so that was the choice I was looking at, is to try to do every little thing I could with what I had.
Cool. Thank you. And Jeff, I'm maybe putting words in your mouth here when I say this next thing, but it seems to me that from what my takeaway from the documentary is that you sort of went back to your roots and rediscovered surfing as best as one can rediscover surfing when they live in Utah, which, as far as I know, doesn't have any oceans.
Yeah, I just a couple things happened. One, I decided to start running again, which I hadn't done since high school. So I rediscovered that also. And that's when I got involved in the Leukemia Lymphoma Society to raise money for leukemia research. And by doing their team and training, which I did half marathons. And then through that, I ended up becoming a patient advocate for them and did a similar thing that Christina did. I was getting phone calls from people that were newly diagnosed to lend an ear to see how they felt and stuff in a non-clinical type thing. And then they ended up sending me to Washington, D.C. a couple of times to do lobbying as a group for them. So I became very involved. I think that was important for my sanity, was to give back a lot, and I also believe in creating hope and creating positivity in myself and in others. I mean, like the movie does, it shows us as being active and being positive and moving forward. And I think that's what is needed. That is what I think other people need to see. And I think it's good for us to internalize.
Yeah.
Because, I owned my disease from the get-go. This is me. This isn't Space Invaders or anything weird. This is just happening to me. I'm going to take a different path. And if I share that path with anybody else, it's going to be positive.
Cool.
Same.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. And Alejandro, my bikepacking soul brother, you just never stopped riding, did you?
No, I did not. But things that I discovered in that process, I took it as planning a trip, 8-hour ride or a 3-day bikepacking ride, and point A and you know point B. You kind of think that you're ready for the in between, and I enjoy the in between more than A and B. And that's pretty much why I got so excited when he said treatment has come. That was point B. And the in between, for me, it was just dealing with the everyday symptoms, if I had any symptoms that day, and enjoying them. My fatigue days, I can still count them on my two hands. And there were good days, there were bad days. I was looking forward to infusion days. Why? I just felt like at the end of the day or the next day I would feel cleaner. I don't know, like somebody washed me really good, but I just felt that way. Looking at Fridays would be another Friday, me preparing for a Saturday ride or a quick overnighter. And little by little, I started opening up to people, telling all my riding buddies what I had, what I was going through, and them telling me, "You motherfucker, you never stopped. You never jumped off your bike. You never told us. How come you never told us?" I remember there was one bikepacking trip that we did, and that's when we all went coincidentally, and we're in the middle of the fire, and there was one guy that he's all into supernatural powers, and so much that I told everybody that night. And that was before I started treatment. And, oh man, you need to smoke this. Oh, you need to smoke that. You need to bathe in this. You need to rub this. And my culture is that way, drink this for cough, drink that before cough. You have a sore eye, do this movement, stuff like that. And I believe in that. I was raised that way. And my grandma pretty much taught me a lot of the basics, let's say, the smoke this, drink that, and rub that. And little by little, that felt like therapy for me to open up. And of course, the feeling of the competitiveness of me having this and be able to ride at a level of a 30-year-old or a 25-year-old, and I'm not complaining, that kind of boosts me up. And to this day, I I ride with 25s, I ride with 30s, I ride with 50s, 60s, and I don't want to beat anybody. I just want to hold on and be able to enjoy it. So that keeps me up. And so the process was, it was not as easy as, okay, I got diagnosed, here it comes, but it was a process to know myself a little bit more. And I reprioritized all the things that I had in life. And I think everybody, we'll have a list, who comes first, who's second, who's third, what comes first. And I reorganized everything. And that puzzle or Jenga game kind of fitted in and inspired me, to keep doing it. So, but it was not a wake up in the morning one day and yeah, let's fucking do it.
Yeah.
Jay,
Yes.
I didn't answer your question the last time. Maybe you can edit this in. Skateboarding in Utah after surfing in California, I actually originally skateboarded before I even learned to surf.
Okay.
I was skateboarding since I was probably 7, 8 years old, and then surfed and then moved to Utah after surfing for 30 odd years. And one thing I had always told myself back when I was in high school was I want to be the guy that's skateboarding at 70 years old. And I was at work one day and I started talking skateboarding with a coworker. He goes, I have an old longboard. You want it? I went, hell yeah, I want it. So I bought new bushings for it, got new wheels and bearings for it, and took it out and promptly hurt my Achilles by skating too long on it in the parking lot at work. And that's when I said, well, I hurt my Achilles, so I can't push. So I'll make a pole. I know guys are doing that. So, and that's where that started. So it was actually a way to get back some of that surfing stoke and get that, as I said in the movie, that state of flow.
Yeah.
Which it gets me there quicker than anything else. So that was to answer your question you asked.
Well, thanks for coming back to that. The scene of you in the movie when you're polling with your board, I don't know if y'all remember this. I think it was during the pandemic. There was like this little viral clip that blew up of the guy skateboarding to work, listening to a Fleetwood Mac song. I think it was Dreams.
Yeah.
And I was like, immediately that's where my mind went. I was like, Jeff is that guy, except
that was Jeff.
Yeah, it could have been. It could have been. I think the guy was actually in Utah too. So
yeah,
maybe. I'll have to find that clip and edit it in along with the clip of you, Jeff. So, yeah. So as we're getting close to wrapping up, and I'm talking to three people. We never really, none of us really know what the future holds for us. But as you think about, continuing to move forward with your lives, what are you sort of keeping at the front of your mind, and what do you want people to hear in this podcast from you, as well as hopefully people are going to go and watch the documentary. It's 16 minutes of super impactful footage of the three of y'all. But what is it that you want people to walk away with?
I want people to never give up hope. Take that gift of life, use it the best you can, and take the bull by the horns and figure out your treatment, your life, your doctors. Don't take no for an answer. There's always a miracle waiting to happen. You have to keep a positive frame of mind through it and try to be active. Get up and walk if, the best you can. Move. It helps with longevity. And not all of us can accomplish that. I don't want people to feel diminished because they're not off, biking 300 miles or, skating. And move the best you can for you. And just don't give up hope. There's always some answers out there.
Great. Thank you. Jeff?
Hope, again, first thing that pops into my mind. There's always hope. Create hope, be positive, be as strong as you can, keep moving, like Christina said. That's fundamental to healthy people and unhealthy people. I mean, just keep moving, get up and do something. I mean, it may be hard, it may be, a stressful thing, but if you do it, you'll get rewards. Learn all the time, learn new things, learn about your health, what you need. Don't be in the dark. Laugh a lot. Try new things. There's a world out there. Use it the best you can.
Great. Absolutely.
Thank you, Jeff.
Alejandro?
Christina started with hope. Jeff started with hope. I'll continue with hope. We got to have hope. We got to have hope. We might not see it in front of us, but we know that we have it, and it's easy to lose it, and it's easier to find it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget your doctor's appointment, your annual checkups. You
100%.
Just don't know. Insurance or no insurance, just do it once a year. Staying active. I think if there is another treatment that I was going through, was staying active, moving, running, riding, bikepacking, cycling, graveling, whatever it is, just move a little bit. When we did the panel discussion after the documentary, Jeff said, mow the lawn, do some gardening, some just minimum movement will bring so much joy really quickly.
I'd like to say something too about mortality. It's something that not a lot of us like to talk about, but it's reality. You're born, you live, you die.
Yep.
And it's what you do with in between that counts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Enjoy the process.
Yes.
Something comes out of it.
Yeah. My hope is that when people listen to this podcast with y'all and some of the other podcasts of the Human Reboot Project, is that they are getting some hope. And if they're not, then I would encourage them to go and watch the Second Winds documentary. It'll only take 16 minutes of your life, but I promise you that it will provide you hope. It will show you what resiliency looks like. It will show you the power of being outdoors. It will show you the power of family. And I just, thank you as a fellow cancer survivor for being so willing to share y'all's story and continuing to move forward. So y'all are incredible people, and thank you.
Beat up, kicked in the teeth, nowhere but up. Not gonna lie down and die. Gotta stay